So here is the clitoris. Completely obvious if you ask me. I don't know what the problem is with finding that thing. It doesn't move, doesn't migrate around your body. It's just always there at the top. It's not that hard to find. And we're here talking about the clitoris just next to Greyfriars. I stop here because there is a walking tour that comes past, like a historical thing. And there's usually millions of them. And it gets a bit confusing about who's in what tour. So yeah, we stop outside Bobby because the tourist all rub his nose far too hard. You need to be gentle with a clitoris because it's really tickly. Now, Greyfriars Bobby is a statue to a little dog that, if you're local, you know the story. A little loyal dog sees his own wee statue. There are more statues to animals with names in Edinburgh than there are to women. There are only 4 statues to women in the whole of our fine city, and 2 of them don't even have a statue. They're just carved in the side of St Giles Cathedral. Queen Margaret and Queen Mary are there. Queen Victoria's got her own spot, and Helen Crummy, she's got a statue in Craig Miller, which was put up in 2014 because she founded the Craig Miller Festival. You must know her. So she's the only one that's not a queen that's got her own statue. Go Helen. Very. So the clitoris is a big organ. It's not just a wee bobbly bit, it's got legs. There's 2 legs that go down the inside of the labia, and there's 2 that go around the inside of the vagina. And the position of where that is gripping your vagina, so if that's your vagina, the clitoris is holding it. Anything that goes into your vagina gets a wee cuddle from the legs of your clitoris, and at the top of where that happens, that's where the G-spot is supposed to be. So if you've got a wee pal that for years has been trying to do, you know, like a veterinarian manoeuvre on you to try and find where the G-spot might go, just tell them not to bother, because they're not going to be able to find it, because it's from inside you gripping onto this thing. You're basically just doing it on your own, as per fucking usual. So yeah, that's a shame. Now the media usually report, in fact a lot of the medical literature reports, that the wee bobbly bit of your clitoris has got 8,000 nerve endings, and I believed it until I was fact checking for this show, because I wanted to make sure that the references were all up to date. And the paper that figure comes from is from a psychiatrist who in the 70s dissected a lot of clitorises. I don't know why. It's not really relevant to his field of study, but sometimes psychiatrists can get a bit funny, a bit quirky. However, what the clitorises were that he dissected were from sheep and cows. We have no data on the sensitivity of the human clitoris. Nobody has ever looked at it, and I've got an opinion about that. So all we really know is that it is very tickly, but if you've got one, you know that. And the first dynamic MRI of an aroused clitoris was done in 2009, because the thing's erect, it moves, and it does all sorts of interesting things. 2009 was also the year that the XM25 counter-defilade target engagement system was launched, which is an automatic machine gun that can shoot round corners. We developed that technology before we knew anything about women's sexual function, which I have an opinion about as well. So the clitoris is really important for women's sexual arousal, and the vibrator is often a girl's best friend. It's not for everybody, but it might be a bit of worth a shot just to see if the orgasm droid was the one that you were looking for. About 10% of women never orgasm, and that's fine. If it's not a problem for you, it's not a problem. But if it is a problem, you don't need to put up with it. Come to clinic, there's lots and lots of reasons for sexual dysfunction. Or if you've got a friendly local lesbian and you're a heterosexual person, ask her, because 86% of single sex activity with women results in an orgasm. They nail it. 86 for each, yeah. So for bi women it's 66%, and for straight women it's 45%, and nobody knows why, but I can guess. So I think these stats, like 45% hit rate, explains why there's so many non-practicing heterosexual women that are happily married, because they're reduced to Nike sex. Where it'll take longer to argue with them and you're better to just do it. Nike sex. There's 14 medications to treat male erectile dysfunction available. There's one for women, and it's called fibacerin, but you can't get it in NHS because it doesn't work. It will give you, if you take it every day for a month, it will give you an extra quarter of an orgasm a month, as long as you don't have any body image problems, relationship problems, or low mood. And you also can't drink alcohol in it because it'll give you a stroke. So it's not brilliant. It's really not brilliant. Whereas Viagra is a really good medication and available over the counter. But I've been emailing people about Viagra and the way it's sold because the biggest purchaser of Viagra is heterosexual middle-aged men. And the people that they tend to be wanting to put their amazing restored erection into are heterosexual middle-aged women. And the middle-aged women are losing their estrogen, so their fanny's often a bit dry. And he's dead chuffed with himself, and he pumps away on there for ages, and she gets a terrible friction burn and a urinary tract infection, and she thinks, oh shit, I'm not doing that again. They should really be selling Viagra with lube. It's really obvious. Why are they not doing that? So I'm trying to get that sorted. Yeah, the other thing about Viagra is that they found when they were researching the medication, it was designed for blood pressure, and then they found it had a really good use. If it's applied vaginally, it cures menstrual pain, even for women that have got endometriosis. However, it's never been properly licensed or investigated. It's not prescribed for that. There's no work going to find out about it, which is a shame because it had no side effects and it cured period pain. Anyway, I haven't found out who I need to email that for. So, your lovely clitoris is an organ which has been of no medical interest whatsoever, and it's the only one that exists for pleasure, so I think we should pay more attention to it. Weirdly though, I tend to find that if a woman has a change of partner, often her sexual function improves. It's interesting that. Nobody knows why that might be. So we're going to walk. Actually, I'll do it here. What I was going to do was walk up to the end up there originally because that's where the mound is. And, oh, thank you. We were going to talk about pubes at the mound, but it's quite a long way and I'm running over again. So let's do pubes here because we've got a wee quiet bit. So the mound of Venus is another jolly fat pad that sits up. God, don't want to lose that. Oops. So there we go. So your mound of Venus is just a fat pad, and it's also there for as a shock absorber. And the Greek myths say it was a gift to us from the goddess of love. But, you know, I would have preferred a bottle of wine, really. And the mound of Venus is where the pubes grow. And you can have none or you can have loads. It doesn't really matter. I have no opinion about women that remove their pubic hair or keep their pubic hair. Who cares? It's up to you. If you've got an opinion about women ripping it out, then, you know, walk a mile in my pubes, sister. It's no easy. I had gone for a tidy up because I was using my bikini line that was, you know, at my knees as an excuse to not go swimming, and you got to move. So I thought, I need to sort this out. I'll go and get myself tidied up. And when I was, you know, having a wee clean up before I went, I found one giant pubic hair growing out the side of my triangle that was 6 inches long. It must have been growing under my underhang during not lockdown, like a little mushroom. And I went to the beautician. I was like, check out the size of that. Have you ever seen? I have no dignity, you've noticed. Check out the size of that. Have you ever seen the like? And she said that she hadn't and came at me with a wee pair of scissors. And I'm like, oh, no, hot the bus. Because I need to keep that. Number one, I need to know how big that thing can grow. And also, what if that's the source of all my superpowers and you take it away from me? Because I've got the ability to know where all of my family's shit is at every single moment in time, which is why you get, where's my? Mum, where's my? I always know. That could be like my wee sort of Bluetooth detector for where the latest Minecraft shit is. So, anyway, pubes, thank you. Oh yes. And you know, if you get different styles for your pubes, you can get a landing strip, it's called here. In France, they call that un ticket de métro. Isn't that brilliant? Yeah, anyway, right, so, oh yes, if you don't have much in the way of pubes and you would like more, there isn't really a solution until we can get transplants from people like me. I would share with you. But you might need to just get a wee Sharpie and draw it on. That would do. Now, I was going to get us to cross over there. But will we just stay here? Because this isn't a bad place, is it? Right, okay. So we were going to have a talk about birth injury. If you're going home, See the triangle where the pedestrian crossing is? That's where the other vulva is that hides in plain sight. It's in the cobbles. Have a look when you're going over, but don't get killed. Right, so we're going to have a chat now. We've only got one more organ left to put onto the vulva. But quickly we'll have a conversation about birth injury, because sometimes women get really worried about having scars and things where they've had an episiotomy or a tear when they had a baby. Birth injury happens when the baby comes out too quickly or too slowly, or it doesn't come out at all. And the best way to avoid getting a birth injury is to not get pregnant. That's your key. That's your key thing. If you could not do that bit, you'll be fine. The next best way to avoid it is to have a caesarean section. And that's often been seen, even in recent history, as a way of opting out, that you're too posh to push. That's what Victoria Beckham got told. And I don't agree. The best outcome from a birth is a live baby and a mother who's not traumatised, and that's pretty much it. It's a good thing. So C-sections can have their own complications, and mysteriously, if you have a caesarean section, you're only really given paracetamol for pain relief. Whereas if you'd gone in and you'd had an episiotomy, they'd be giving you the good shit drugs. I don't know why that is. I think it might be just a habitual thing, because historically we've shamed women that have had abdominal deliveries instead of delivering vaginally. And that's gone on for a long time. This is a woodcut from 1475. It's in the Wellcome collection. And it's a picture that's called The Birth of the Antichrist from a Dying Woman. And what's happening here is she's having a caesarean section, and there's a wee man coming out of her mouth because that's her soul leaving. And they're saying that this is how the devil was born out of her tummy. So we've been shaming women since 1475, and there's really no need for it. So the last organ is your urethra. So your urethra is your pee hole. Now, it can be really small. You might need a mirror and a decent light to be able to find it, and it can sit anywhere from right underneath your clitoris to inside your vaginal opening. It could go an inch inside your vaginal opening. It could be quite small. So get a mirror and a good light source and have a wee footer about. It can be easier to find your urethra if you're a bit turned on, because your urethra's got a ring of erectile tissue around it. And that's why sometimes when some women are bursting for a pee, it feels a bit nice. It's good that there's so many of you here. Actually, that feeling is a good reason for doing your pelvic floor exercises. If you don't get it, try it, you will. So bladder problems affect about 1 in 3 women. And the main problem with them is, apart from it makes you feel not very good about yourself, is it's a barrier to exercise. Same as the breast thing. And coronary heart disease is the biggest killer of women in premature death of women in industrialised countries. And if you're over 43 years old and your BMI is over 25, which isn't fat, then statistically you're likely to wet yourself when you run. So it's really important that we get people fixing their pelvic floors. Stops you from pushing yourself, stops your fanny from falling out, and improves your orgasm. There you are. If it doesn't work, come to clinic and you'll get somebody who's a lot more professional than I am fixing you. So, the other thing about the urethra is sometimes it's positioned quite close to your vagina, and that's why women can get urinary tract infections if they're having penetrative sex. So that's why when your granny told you to go for a wee pee after you'd had sex, if you had that kind of relationship with your granny, she was quite right. So, we now have a fully assembled vulva. Yay! And I haven't lost any of the organs. So you can now tell your clitoris from your elbow, and you know that sex matters. Because women used to have this knowledge. In the 15th century, the women that were executed as witches, they knew about their bodies and what they did, but we burned them, so we lost the information. And I'd really like to know what would have happened to women, modern women, if we'd known all of that stuff, and what we can expect from our genitals during the course of our lifetime, and which industries would have gone bankrupt many, many years ago. There's a really smashing quote from Utega Uwagba, who said on Twitter, "Men should be grateful that women only want equality and not revenge." Like, aye, you're right, Utega. So, historically, even in recent times, there was one last year, there's been multiple modern government inquiries into failings in women's health, whether that's in maternal services or gynecology. And each one finds and states we must listen to women. But they don't. History has shown us that no fecker is going to listen to us. It's just not going to happen. We're going to have to do it for ourselves. We're going to have to learn to shout. So, give me a V. Give me a U. U. Give me an L. L. Another V. Vulva. Viva your vulva. Thank you. So, thank you very much for coming. I think I'm still over, haven't I? Over time. 20 minutes over, dearie me. See, if this was the stand, I'd be in trouble. 20 minutes is social death. So I think the funniest thing about my show is because it's evidence-based, it counts as continuing professional development if you're a healthcare professional.